Hi, I'm Tom Stephenson and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be looking at study tips. We're starting a new year. I can't believe it, a new year has already come and gone from last year and we're here again. And there's a lot of things that remain the same and there's a lot of things that are different. But what's different for you is if you're starting out your academic career in college or university or some other program. Hopefully I can give you some tips from my perspective as a lifelong learner, and something will resonate with you that will help you in your studies, right? And so I've broken it down into, there's a lot more than this, and I've got other YouTube videos on this. I'll try to put them in the description. I've got a playlist of information on different study tips. And again, some things work for some people and some things don't work for some people. So you got to sort of figure out what works for you, and then you got to try it, right? And you got to test it. And then what works, you keep doing. What doesn't work, you dump it, right? And that's how you over time continuously improve and get better. And that's how you'll notice in your class, there's some people that they just seem to, it comes so easy for them. Some have a little bit perhaps more talent than others, but talent often gets wasted, if I can be honest. And I think the people that really sort of develop good habits, and we'll talk about that, really excel over time. So I'm going to talk about habits. I'm going to talk about calendars and keeping to a calendar and a schedule. I'm a professor of construction management. And look, a lot of the stuff I'm talking about here works for you if you get into business and you have to manage any kind of projects. But for me, it's construction projects. These types of things, work habits, really will accelerate you in your career. It's not only just about school, because the way the world is changing, we have to be continuously learning, or we're going to be toast. We're going to be toast. And that includes myself, and sometimes it's a struggle. Note taking, focus, experimenting, as I was saying already. A little bit newer topic is AI. I talked about it last year too. I've been all over it since it came out, because when something is new, but it's going to be disruptive, you should be investigating it. Now, in colleges and universities, we have to also be careful that we have academic integrity and we're not compromising that. But it is a very helpful tool, and we'll talk about that. And then I'll give the last one. I'll go into detail about getting to know your professor before you need to know the professor. So let's get started. Habits, really, everything we do is a habit. I used this one last year too. Basically, you get up in the morning, you brush your teeth, or you go to bed at night, you brush your teeth. You get certain things that you go in autopilot on, and you don't even notice that you're doing. That's great, right? If we didn't have that, and if humans didn't have that sort of thing where we build these sort of habits, life would be a lot more complicated. And so having we have positive habits. Unfortunately, we also have bad habits. They're probably even easier to form and harder to break. And so when it comes to studying, there's certain habits that you need to get into and things that you need to look at, like what will work for you and what triggers the habit. So basically, if you're looking at like something will trigger it. So if I go to a particular place, or there's a particular chair in my house that I always study in, then that's a good habit, because you recognize I'm going to sit in here and I'm going to study and I'm going to focus in on this particular thing. But you can consciously build habits and routines for yourself that can be very, very helpful that way. I was going to show you in my book here, and I think I've scattered it around. But so I wanted to swim this summer, and I wanted to get into shape. So what I did was I created basically a listing that I would write down when I swam and how often I swam, because my goal was to swim 2 to 3 times a week and build up so that I could do some open water swimming with my daughter at a certain point. And we did that. And so I just came back from a nice swim this morning, actually, because I'm still in that habit mode. Sometimes I do find come the fall, I break out of that habit when the weather starts getting colder, and maybe I decide I don't want to swim during the winter, or I do. But yeah, I purposely wanted to build that habit. And then one of the things that I did was I just have to get to the pool. I just have to I don't have to do a lot of links. I don't have to put a lot of pressure on myself. And then slowly I would build up to a certain threshold of distance that my goal was for 40 links in the pool. And I actually got up to 48, which was pretty good. I even reinstated a goal that I wanted to get to 60, and not there yet, but working on it. So those are the way that goals and habits, they can kind of work together. Now you can build a habit where if you take the subway to school, every time you're on the subway, you find a seat and you read. Read not just TikTok and all that other stuff. You read some of your homework. You try some of your homework. That's not a bad habit. That's a good habit. I had a student last year that very, very smart student. Like I knew, like tests always like almost perfect. And there was a bunch of quizzes and never did them. And so instead of getting like an A plus, the student was going to get like a C plus. And I asked him, why didn't you do the quizzes? Oh, I was so busy. If he built, I said, you could have built this habit in at break time and done the quizzes, because this person had some experience. They knew their stuff. It wouldn't take them that long. 20 minutes, they'd have the quiz done. And so if they built that habit, they wouldn't have to, if they're working at night and doing other things, try to fit that in on top of it. It'd be just done. So you got to try to look at where's your strengths, where's your weaknesses, and try to make it, if you're trying to build a study habit, make it as effortless as possible. So if you know that you're making it, maybe you've got kids and you've got a family and you're trying to do something, well, you know, if the kids are going to be at you every 2 minutes, that time period's maybe not good enough. Maybe it's after the kids are in bed, or maybe it's when you first wake up, before they wake up. You look for times in your calendar that will work, and you time block them in the calendar so that basically they're listed and you can perform them at that particular time. And then soon, as you do it week after week, it just becomes automatic and you're not even thinking about it. Now you've got this strong habit, and now you've got a system that's working for you, and things become easier for you, a lot easier. So that's important. And as I was mentioning, calendars. Okay, so the other thing is, look at your courses. Line up your courses. A lot of learning management systems have built-in calendars where if the teacher unfortunately marks it down that it'll show up on the calendar, then you'll know where your assignments and where your quizzes are due and that sort of thing. If not, you make sure that you create your own so you know what's going to be due when, and that you are able to not miss stuff, because that happens a lot, unfortunately. And then you're kind of like throwing marks in the trash can. So you got to be cognizant of that. The other thing is you got to look at the weighted value of things. I mean, if there's a quiz and it's going to take you 3 hours and it's worth 3%, and you've got a big paper that's worth 30%, I'd probably, if I'm stuck for time, I'm going to throw out that quiz, or I'm just going to guess at it and get whatever I can out of it. And I'm going to focus it on that assignment that's worth 30%. You got to prioritize, right? There's this thing called the Eisenhower matrix that I talk about in another video. But basically, you've got to look at, well, what is basically, important and urgent, right? And so basically, if you've gotten yourself into that important and urgent area, well, then you got to prioritize, and you throw out something that's has less of a priority. Ideally, with this kind of setup, you're setting up your assignments, your quizzes, and everything so that you know what's the priority, and you're not getting things into the important and urgent. You're getting things that are important but not urgent, because the quiz is due in 3 or 4 days. I got time. I'm going to do it here. I'm going to do it there. This big major assignment, I've got a month to do, or 6 weeks to do, or even the semester to do. I'm starting little by little now. I'm not going to wait till the end and then make myself crazy with stress. So it's kind of setting yourself up to reduce your stress. You gotta, and again, some people, they thrive on a little bit of pressure. I get that, but sometimes the pressure gets to be too much, and I get that too. So you got to look at your sort of personal makeup, not to procrastinate too long. Some of you may need a little bit of pressure before it gets you going, but don't leave it too late, because there's things in this world you can't control. You can't control if you get COVID or the flu or something like that, and it throws you off for a couple of weeks, and you've left everything till the end, and that's when you get it, right? That can mess you up a lot to try to get some of the things done. All right, so definitely set up a calendar. Don't give away free marks. Know the value. This is just a sample of I just wanted to show you, like, I get myself into jams as well. You're not the only ones that, you've got today in today's world, and again, the world has changed. I think some administrations at colleges and universities don't get that, but the world has changed, right, in the last 20 years. I'm not talking about the last 3, 4 years. I'm talking about the last 20 years. And people have to work to also go to college and universities typically. Not always, but typically. And so if we're thinking that they don't also have to have jobs and fit things around things, we're not thinking straight with things. They do. And so what you have to do is, if you have a really, really busy schedule, you really have to set up a calendar. And the calendar will kind of flag stuff if it's stuff that's getting out of control that you can't do. Now, this was a particular one that I pulled out from last February, and I had this course I needed to take because I do a lot of training in lean construction methodologies, and they redid the whole program. And you had to take this course again if you're an instructor to recertify. And it was a great opportunity, actually. I was working with one of the original people from Lean, very knowledgeable individual, and I really enjoyed it. But I had to fit it in, and so I had to time block it. And then I have things that I was fortunate that my classes, for the most part, didn't really interfere with it. I had one where there was a 1 hour overlap. I arranged that I would be a half an hour late for that. I would have my breaks towards the end, and so I would make it work, right? I would make it work. But you can see it's pretty busy. I would have to have that all figured out ahead of time, or balls are going to drop. I'm going to miss stuff. I'm going to forget stuff. And there's no way I'm going to be able to do it. And something like this, you're going to try not to have all the time because it builds up on you over time. But for a period of time, you can handle it. Even for a semester, if you had to do it for a semester, you can handle it. I know students that have, often I've seen students that have worked full-time jobs and managed their college university better than somebody who their parents are paying everything and they don't, they're living at home. And so sometimes it's about building the right habits and routines. And they're working very efficiently, those ones that are successful at it. But they're not doing it without having some planning and schedule. They're not just going through the motions of it. They are working at making it work. And you build like I said, you build these skills in college and university. When you get out there, you're going to be highly sought after, and you're going to do very well because you can organize things and you can iterate things too. There's things here that if I had to, I could change it. I could change the dentist appointment. I could change these meetings here if I had to. So there's different things that I know I have certain flexibility in, and certain things I know I don't. And I usually color code them based on different factors, right? If it's outside work, if it's basically in person, if it's online. So there's a whole bunch of different scenarios that you can get into on that. I'll probably do another video just on that, how that works. Note taking. Okay, so note taking. I feel like for some it's become kind of this prehistoric idea. Note taking. Nobody likes to take notes. What people will do is they'll take a snapshot of the board, which is fine, nothing wrong with that. But if you never write anything down, it doesn't click as well. And my understanding, again, I feel I've read research reports that support this, and I've read some that don't. But when you write it, it's a stronger connection with your brain than if you type it. Again, see how that works with you. See how that works with you. Different people, different ways, different learning. But definitely for me, I will, like I said, I've got this, and I put a lot of notes in here, and I'll have segments and different things for that. I'd probably organize myself different than if I was doing a whole bunch of courses. Then my daily type journal, I would have a different book for my notes, and I'd have separations by course. But definitely you want to have highlights and important things, and look for the teacher that they often will say, well, this is important, or this is going to be on the test, or this is going to be something that you need to know. And those are things that should set off a little alarm bell that you're putting a star on, that you're putting a note beside it, whether it's maybe you've got an iPad, like I've got one charging behind me there, but basically that you've got your PowerPoints, and maybe you want to basically put a note on something. Again, figure that part out, but it's very, very helpful to have some sort of system that you can collect information and then you can find it when you need it. That's the other thing. So that's always the hard part. So that's why you want to, if you're doing like by course, you want to have them by course so you know in that particular course. And you could even have it, this was week 1, this was week 2. And then you can filter that information, pull it out for when you're preparing for a test or you need to know it for some assignment, etc. Focus. Well, I don't know what to say about this one. It's tough. You know, the whole world is trying to get your attention. I mean, the whole world is trying to get your attention. Look, you're looking at this YouTube video right now. I got your attention for whatever the reason. But, you know, if you're wasting it on a lot of stuff that's not going to help you, that's a waste, right? So that's building the habits. That's building a good foundation. That's making sure that what you're spending your time on is taking you towards your goals and understanding what your goals are. So that's important. Why did you take this program? Is it because you want to become, in my area, construction manager, project manager, estimator? What is it that you want, right? And then focus on that. Have a laser focus on that. And if you develop those skills, bring them back, right? You may have lost them over the years to your cell phone. Work on bringing them back. Maybe remove some of the social media apps from your phone so it's not so easy. Remember, habits? Make it easy to form a good habit. Make it hard to do a bad habit. And so multitasking definitely does not work. So you want to have, again, that time blocking. I'm going to focus on this for a period of time. And if you've lost your focus, you can look up, or I've done another video on Pomodoro technique. Basically, it's a short-term timer where you focus like 25 minutes and then you give yourself a 5 or 10 minute break. Then you focus 25 minutes, you give yourself a 5 or 10 minute break. And you build up that focus time. You might start out focusing 15 minutes or 10 minutes. Building it up to 40 minutes. Everybody's different on the time. I had one student one time said, I studied for 16 hours straight. I can't understand why I did so poorly. That's your problem. You left it the whole semester till the last 2 days and you thought you could just pull it all together and you didn't have a strong foundation, right? You didn't have a strong foundation. So you left it too long. You don't see an athlete training for the Olympics. Okay, it's the month before the Olympics. I'm going to train 24 hours a day till the Olympics and then I'm going to be, no, it'll never work. They're building themselves up, right? And they're even tapering, you know, swimmers taper just before a meet so that they've got that strength to perform. So basically you're thinking about focusing, and meditation is a great tool. I've been working on it myself for a period of time to really sort of get you to focus. It's not, believe it or not, it's not easy if you've ever done it. But I think it's those that can focus for longer periods of time in today's world are going to win, because you can do, as Cal Newport would say in his seminal work, deep work. You could focus for longer periods of time. So this is important, really important from that perspective. And of course, we have to think about the schedule, time blocking time so that we can focus in on study time, work time, etc. And that's no easy chore. Again, when you've got classes that you're often scheduled all over the map, you have to look for it. And so that often means, oh, I can see I've got an hour of time in between classes here and here. This is an opportunity for me to get work done. Some people, they'll just hang around with their friends in the cafeteria. But meanwhile, if you've got work to do in the evening and other things, responsibilities, something has to give, and you got to find where those opportunities are and you got to exploit them. And having a well thought out calendar will do that for you, right? Also, as I mentioned at the very beginning, test stuff. Try things. I mentioned the Pomodoro technique. That might work for some. It might not work for others. Try it. Does it work? If it works, keep it. If it doesn't, as long as you've given it a good sort of effort and a good period of time, then you can evaluate that it doesn't. And sometimes it takes that you got to work it and then tweak it and work it and tweak it and work it and tweak it. And then all of a sudden now you got a system. And that system holds well for you for many, many years, maybe for life. from that perspective. And so there's some things that change constantly, and there's others that don't change so much over time. And those types of things, those are really valuable habits to develop. Now, as I mentioned earlier, AI, artificial intelligence, if you're an older student, I'm going to ask you if you've tried it. If you're a younger student, I'm going to guess that you have. But basically, it's a very helpful tool, and it's really, any of the AI products that are out there, and a lot are pretty free or available, like ChatGPT currently anyways. How that's going to evolve and change, it may change tomorrow. But you can ask a series of questions on a particular topic. I can use it now to help me develop a course that I want to teach. I can have it rough out some slides. Now, I'll be honest, I usually look at it and I have to do a fair bit of editing because there's stuff I don't agree with or stuff that doesn't quite make sense or is incorrect. But there's a good stuff that it gives me a good starting point. Even I had to do this building code course in the summertime. It seemed to take forever because I hadn't taught it in many years to find a certain thing. And so I would just ask ChatGPT specifically, where is this? What section number would this be in our provincial code? And it would tell me the section number. And then I just copy and paste that into my building code, and it would bring that section right up. So I wasn't, looking for it through the indexes and that. So it probably cut my time by 2/3, I would say. And you know what? That's the way business is going to use it. That's the way contractors are going to use it. That's the way designers are going to use it. But you have to know it well enough to know what's right and what's not right. Because it would, some of the answers, they were not correct. Every day, though, it gets better. That's the other thing. So if you're looking at this video 3 years from now, you might, what's he talking about? It's so much better. That's the way technology works. In the beginning, first digital cameras, it was nice that it did a picture, but I don't think Kodak was shaking in their boots until all of a sudden they were better than the film. Well, some people might argue on that one, but basically that's how technology evolves and changes. So use it to your advantage, right? And make sure that you're following, because some of the stuff that we're dealing with as professors depends on the course, depends on the professor. They may have certain requirements that you can use ChatGPT for certain things that you're submitting, or they might have zero that you can do. So you want to basically make sure that you're following whatever the requirements, because you don't want to get into academic penalties and suspensions and failures of courses and that kind of stuff, right? All of this stuff is new and changing as I speak, but it's definitely a tool that can help you to learn. Like maybe the teacher said a certain concept in the class and you don't understand it. Well, start asking ChatGPT a bunch of questions about it. And it just saves, normally you would Google this stuff, but then it's like bringing you to all these sites that on the peripheral have something to do with it, but it takes you so much longer. With ChatGPT, it's almost filtering that stuff out for you so that then you can look at it more in depth. But again, don't count that it's right, but it can be very helpful used in the right way. And then the last one I'll say is get to know your professor before you need to know your professor. It's nice when I have students that I see them a lot when that's physically in the class, meaning that they're coming to the class. I myself have changed my methods so that students have some flexibility if they got something going on. If they missed the class, there's some sort of related recording that they can watch. That's why I put so much of my course materials up on YouTube so that they have more flexibility that way. But when you're in class and you're participating, and this is even if it's an online class, ask questions, turn your camera on, differentiate yourself. I had one of the students asking me on an online course, how do I differentiate myself from the other students? Best way, turn your camera on right there. Now I know a face. Now I might run into you at the college. I might see you at a shopping mall or something, but at least it'll be recognizable to me. Otherwise, no, I don't know by just a blank screen and a name. It's so easy. And if you're in present, introduce yourself at the end of the class, at break time. Ask questions at the end of the class, before the class starts, at break time. Just get the professor to know you. And that helps. That helps a lot. I mean, it helps a lot. And so it's not that, you know, you got some problem or issue. It's just building those relationships, those connections early on. This is what we do in business, right? A lot of business is about getting to know your, in construction, the tradespeople you're dealing with, the vendors you're dealing with. It means suppliers, the clients, the architects, consultants. It's very, very helpful because at some point we all need help, and it can be really a game changer that way. Helps me too. Over time, I get to know students, keep in touch with them decades later, right? And so it's always nice to see. So I hope this gets you at least thinking on it. If you've made it this far, congratulations that you were able to watch this whole video. I commend you on that. And hopefully I'll see you in class, or leave notes, subscribe to the channel, and have a wonderful day. Bye for now.